Hello there, I'm Barb Owen of HowToGetCreative.com, and this video is part of the What Is series. Today I'm going to answer the question, what is decorative thread? So let me show you some of my very favorite decorative threads. These are some of my favorites, so we're going to talk about the different kinds of decorative threads. This just will only scratch the surface of the subject of decorative threads, but we're going to talk about some of my favorites. And you can't talk about decorative threads without talking about needles a little bit, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. So here is probably my all-time favorite thread, decorative thread ever, and it is the Superior King Tut Thread. Superior King Tut Thread. These are all variegated threads, and they have such an even variegation in the way that the yarn is dyed. Everything is very evenly spaced. So if you do a zigzag or satin stitch, it will appear striped and very evenly striped when it is stitched out. It is just a wonderful thread. It's a cotton thread. It stitches beautifully in the machine. I have never had it give me one moment of problems, ever. Not ever. It comes in a huge variety of colors, and I use this thread all the time. So I highly, highly recommend the King Tut by Superior Decorative Thread. Another thread that is really a nice one is the Sulky 12 weight. And a 12 weight thread, I'm going to show you right up here. It will tell you heavy 12 weight thread right here on the end of the spool. So you can see that listed on the spool here. And this is also a variegated thread. This is also a cotton thread, but 12 weight is much heavier, so you have to use a heavier needle. So we'll talk about that in a minute. This is much heavier in weight than your King Tut thread. Let's see if I can pull a strand of each of these out so you can see the difference. So let's see. Maybe a little bit hard for you to pick up on the video, but the one on the left is the 12 weight. The one on the right is the King Tut, which is, I believe, a 40 weight. Let's see. It's a 40 weight or a 30 weight. I've forgotten which it is, which it doesn't matter. Just know that a 12 weight is a much heavier thread. It still will go through the needle of your machine, and that is it works perfectly well. You just don't have quite as many options when using the 12 weight thread as you do when using the King Tut. This you can do satin stitch types of closed stitches, or you can use your things like feather stitches or star stitches, things like that are just single pattern stitches. These are Sulky threads, so these are rayon decorative threads. This is a 40 weight thread. It tells you it's a 40 weight thread, sorry, right here on the spool. So this is a 40 weight thread. This is commonly used in your embroidery machine and does beautiful, it's a lustrous thread. It does beautiful, wonderful embroidery stitching. This is a Sulky, let's see, this is a Sulky 40 weight thread. This is in a variegated, get the word out, variegated, as opposed to the solid colorway. So these are put out by the same company. Very, very lustrous threads, beautiful, gorgeous threads. You can also get embroidery threads that are in cotton. This is by the Mettler company, so this is cotton. Also a nice lustrous thread, but it is cotton. It's not as high in sheen as the rayon is. Also works well in the embroidery machine. I use that a lot too. This is variegated. This is a Mettler cotton mercerized thread. Very, very different than what you see in the King Tut. So very, very different. Beautiful thread. This is a little heavier weight thread. And it's gorgeous when stitched out. lovely thread. And then you can also work with a metallic thread. This is from the Superior Company. This is a metallic thread. Metallic threads are a little more difficult to work with. This is a 40 weight metallic thread. Some of them are a little ouchy. Many of your embroidery or decorative threads have caps that, see if I can get this off here. No. You can lift up the cap of the thread and it will allow you to store the end of the thread in the cap there, the cap of the spool. And with metallic threads or any of these decorative threads, metallics in particular, they tend to be quite wiry and the spool will unravel. That little thread will just unravel and it gets makes a big mess. The Sulky spools are the same way, these smaller spools. And yes, and if you're not careful, well, you can see what I just did. I popped the end off the spool. I've had this spool for quite a while, and as the spools sit, the plastic does become more brittle, and so this is much more prone to happening. But what will happen under normal circumstances, if you're not quite as rough and if the spool's not as old, this will pop up like this, and you can wind the thread around there, and then you just push it down and it will hold the thread in place. So once this breaks off though, just throw it away, and just it doesn't affect the spool in the way that the thread feeds or anything. It's just that breaks off sometimes, and that happens when the spools are become more brittle. So in this case, on this one, it doesn't even lift up. You just simply wind it around, and there's little teeth in there that will hold the thread. So it depends on the spool and how it's engineered. Here's another metallic thread. This is put on a cone. This is also metallic. This doesn't have any way to hold the end of the thread on it, so you need to put something around it, like Hugo's amazing tape, and that is a clear plastic tape that sticks to itself, and you can wind it around there, and that will hold the decorative threads in place. This is another one, and this one is called, let's see if I can remember, Super Twist. So this is a funny thread. This is a metallic thread, but it has some other fibers with it, and it's a little friendlier to the sewing machine. It works a little bit better, I find, than these that are just straight metallic thread. So these come in a very wide variety of colors, and it sews pretty well in your sewing machine. Now, all of these will work better if you use a needle that is specifically meant for these threads. So some of your needle choices include embroidery needles, and these come in different weights. So this is a 90 metallic, or a 90 embroidery needle. There's also, I believe, a 75. So different numbers, different gauge of needles. This is a Microtex sharp needle. This is a metallic needle. Metallic needles, metallic threads. Some of your metallic threads work better with the Microtex needles, and so you just pretty much have to try them out. And then you have Topstitch needle. Now, Topstitch needles come in different sizes as well. This is a 90. I would use a 100 Topstitch needle for this 12 weight sulky thread. So when you're going up to the 12 weight, the heavy thread, then you want to use an even heavier needle than this, bigger needle. So a 100/16 would be a better choice for this type of thread that's so heavy. So you need to match the needle to the thread. Always match the needle to the thread. You need to select a needle that is meant to stitch for the kind of thread that you're working with. So metallic threads the thread passes through the needle and through the machine many times before it pierces the fabric many times before it actually is incorporated into the stitch of the fabric. So you have to have a needle that will allow the thread to do that and not become abraded and break. That's what causes much of the problem, is the abrasion where the needle and the thread are not matched up. So don't be hesitant to try different needles with your different threads. So what makes a thread decorative versus a sewing thread? Well, decorative threads are meant to lay on the surface of fabric and decorate the fabric. A construction thread is meant to hold things together like seams. And the difference is, if you were to sew a garment with one of these threads, let's say this rayon thread, for example, if you were to sew a garment like this, let's say a pair of pants. So you sewed your pants together and with a decorative thread. Long term or short term, possibly, that seam would pop in the crotch seam or anything that was going to have any stress, because these threads, the decorative threads, are not meant to hold things together. They are meant to lay on the surface to decorate whatever you're doing, whether it is an art quilt or whether it is top stitching on a blouse or a jacket, or around the hem of pants, for example. You might want to have some decorative stitches there. They're meant to lay on the top. They're meant to decorate. They're meant to embellish things. They're not meant to hold things together. So decorative threads for decorative purposes, construction threads to hold things together. All right, I hope that answers some questions about what are decorative threads, and I will see you in the next video or the next class. Thanks for watching. Remember to get creative today, because you know it's easy, and I'll see you in the next class. Hey, come on over to How to Get Creative and check us out too, okay? Love to have you over there. Talk to you soon.